Welcome to Mel's Clever Crafts. Today we'll be making a Jamaican flag wreath, as you can see. So I'm representing for my little country. Today we're gonna be using black, green, and yellow, which is actually should be gold, but it pretty much shows up as yellow. And we're gonna start off by cutting our poly burlap. Starting by cutting the yellow one, and we cut them in 10-inch strips. So this poly burlap, it is 10 inches wide, so I'll pretty much cut them in 10 by 10 squares, and it's gonna be the same size for the yellow, the green, and the black. However, for the yellow, because I'm gonna be using it for the yellow X or the gold X in the middle of the flag, I'm gonna not only cut it in 10 by 10 strips, but as you go on, you'll see that I'm actually gonna be doing what they call like a pinwheel type of petal. So I'm gonna be cutting this 10 by 10 square twice, and this 10 by 10 square, it's gonna actually turn out to make 2 petals. So I use the wood burner to cut this, and when you're using a wood burner, always cut in a well ventilated area because it's poly and you need to have well ventilated area. So to pretty much make the pinwheel method, I'm going to use the pointed metal technique. So we're going to start by folding the bottom right corner over to the top left, as you see right there, and try to get the corners to line up as evenly as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just get them to line up as evenly as possible so your petal sizes are as similar as possible. So pretty much the finished edge for me was at the top and at the bottom, and then I just folded from bottom right to top left, and then I used the wood burner again to cut this into half. So it made a big triangle when you folded it first, and then you use the wood burner to cut it. And when you cut it with the wood burner, it pretty much fuses these ends that you're cutting, so you get 2 smaller triangles from that. So from 1 petal you get 2 petals, and these petals are going to turn out to be your pinwheel petals, and you're going to see the pretty shape that they actually have. And it's the same type of petals that I used in the Nigerian flag that I made, and you can find a link to that video in the description box to see the Nigerian flag. And again, the same thing. So I'm gonna be cutting the green, but this is a new roll, so what I pretty much do is cut about 3 inches off the end of it, just to give it that start, because it pretty much comes out fraying. And again, we use the wood burner to minimize fraying, so I just use the wood burner to cut. And if you see it curve, I'm not curving it, I'm just following the space in between each of the fibers of that poly burlap. So it's still gonna be approximately 10 by 10 inches. I'm just following the fibers, I'm not curving it on my own. So again, 10 by 10 for the green, and it's the same method as what we used for the yellow. Same thing for the black. We're gonna cut off the end, cut off the first about 3 inches off there, or 2 inches, and then just cut them in 10 by 10 pieces. Great. So now we're gonna start making our wreath. So you see, I have my zip ties lined out, and it's so cool that they have the colors of my country's flag, black, green, and yellow, or black, green, and gold. But to start off this wreath, because there is gonna be that yellow X in the middle, I'm gonna start off just to demarcate on my wreath so I know where I'm putting what. So I'm gonna start off, as you can see, I'm trying to place the yellow parts. So these yellow petals, again, these are the ones you cut in half previously, and I'm gonna first attach the zip tie. So I'm gonna attach it to one of those brackets on the 3rd ring. Okay, so if you're counting from the inside ring going out, it's gonna be the 3rd ring, and if you're counting from the outside ring coming in, it's gonna be the 2nd ring. So I put it on the 2nd ring on that bracket on the top right corner. So this ring is this wreath frame is a 14-inch wreath frame, and it has 6 brackets, and I put it on the top right one. And then, as you saw, to make that pinwheel petal is pretty much take your petal that you cut and you just scrunch the bottom up, similar to making a basic petal. And then when you scrunch it up, it gives it that nice little pinwheel kind of curve. And then just put it in your zip tie and tighten. And I repeat the same process for the remainder of these. Just scrunch up the bottom and then attach them. And then now I'm gonna attach the green. So this is gonna be the pointed daisy petal. This is a Dean Michael pointed daisy petal. So fold from the bottom right. If you put your finished edge at the top, finished edge at the bottom, fold from bottom right to top left, and then you pretty much scrunch up from the middle of that triangle. If you have a triangle upside down, you scrunch up from the middle up to that point. You fold them together, you see, and they look almost like 2 bunny ears. That's what they look like to me, at least. And that's your pointed daisy petal. That was originally, I guess, created by Dean Michael Designs. At least that's what I found out in my research. And I really, really love this petal. These are 2 of my favorite petals to use. So you'll see pretty much all the videos I have so far, they're gonna have pointed petals on there. I just love how they look. They don't really curve, they just stand out. And I just pretty much I'm gonna attach all the first set of petals to that second ring coming in on the wreath frame. And I'm gonna attach 7 green petals. So there's gonna be 7 green petals at the top of this wreath frame, 7 at the bottom. And then when I get to the black, at least that's on the outer part, right? When I get to the black ones, there's gonna be only 3, and that's gonna be in between the yellow petals. So the black ones are gonna be on the sides, and it's gonna be 3 on the outer. So I'll put in the description box how many petals I actually used for each ring. And this wreath, it's gonna turn out to have 4 layers of petals because of the size of the center that I was using. And that center was I made that center, it was made using a floral disc or foam disc from the Dollar Tree, which is a little bit less than 5 inches in diameter, and that's why I ended up using 4 rows of petals. And then right now I'm pre-attaching my zip ties to see if that would have made my job easier, and it didn't really turn out easier. So I started attaching them, and then as I went on, I didn't bother pre-attaching them. I just attached them while I made the petals. So see, finished edge at the top, finished at the bottom, bottom right over to top left, and you try to make that as even as possible. And pretty much you scrunch from the bottom all the way up to the point of that triangle, and you see it curves in together. And then you just fold them up, fold them together, and then you're gonna attach it to the wreath frame. Now when you make these petals and you're attaching them to the wreath frame, okay, that's my daughter knocking on the door. Yeah, so as I was saying, when you're attaching the petal, just make sure, just to make it better guidance, attach the petals so that the bottom of that petal is resting on the top of the next ring on the wreath frame. And we're just gonna keep repeating the process. We're making the same pointed daisy petal using the green and the black. The only one that used a different petal, it was only the yellow ones. And for the yellow, we're gonna use pretty much 1 on each row. So that's gonna make a total of 16. So we're just gonna be using 16 yellow petals in total. Alright, so I pretty much just sped up the entire process because, as I said, it's the same thing. Same pointed petal that we're using throughout the whole process. And for the yellow, that's the only different one that we're using the pinwheel petal for. And then what I do is I try to put the finished edge to make that finished edge the part that's showing. So for the second layer of petals, I didn't even attach it to any of the wreath frame. I just attached it to the plastic canvas mesh, and that's what I'm doing right there. So it's like right below the last ring, or the most inner ring on that wreath frame. So as you can see, it's right there, just resting underneath it, so it's not on the wreath frame. So I zoomed in a little bit just so you could have a better look, and just went around and just kept attaching all those zip ties, pre-attached the zip ties. So I didn't pre-attach them to the ring, but when I'm using the canvas, the plastic canvas mesh, it's much easier to pre-attach them before I start attaching the petals, and that's what I pretty much did for this layer. And for the second layer, I had 5 green on this row, then I had 2 blacks, and again one yellow. So 5 green on the top and the bottom, and 2 blacks on each side, and then 1 yellow. And I like to add the yellows first because it kind of just evens out and let me know where I need to stop for the other colors. And then going in to that third row, I ended up having 2 of the I was just checking right there to see if the center was gonna hold, if I was gonna just stop at the third layer, if it would look okay. But then I realized no, it's not gonna stop, so I had to make a 4th layer. So unfortunately my camera died, my phone died, so you'll see the finished product. Here's the final product of the Jamaican flag flower wreath. Thank you again for watching, and if you like this video, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, leave me some comments, some Jamaican flags in the comment section, and check out my other videos. Bye.